All right. This is Matt
And Jake here.
coming to you for Sabbath Lounge, and we are at week 11, and we appreciate you stopping by, and we are going to take a look at this scripture here.
Yeah, this is our Talking Torah series, right?
That's right, Talking Torah. And so it is week 11, and how do you say this?
Vayigash.
Vayigash. Sounds like you need to cover that or apply pressure.
Yeah. What does that mean, though, Matt?
And he came near.
Okay. Who came near what?
Who came near what? Joseph and his father.
That's the whole point.
That's right.
You got to read the portion to find out.
That's right. Genesis 44:18, 47 through 27 is the part that we're going to deal with.
Yes. Let's deal with it, Matt.
All right. So we're going to have to move our face around a little bit. So here we go. We're going to jump right into it. And you see that Judah is willing to take the burden, willing to cover for the loss of a beloved son. And so...
you see growth there.
Yes, you see a changed man, possibly. And, lying your whole life would make you
rethink some things, yeah. Yeah, and while you're thinking of that, we did a study on, is Judas saved? And you'll find some interesting parallels to this, because once Judas... realizes that they're going to take Yeshua and murder him, they're like, he didn't want anything to do with it at that point, and he goes back and he repents of the evil that he has done and throws the money back at them. So similarly here, where Judah is willing to take the burden, Judas is...
no coincidence. What's the name of the field?
Oh, the Potter's Field.
Yes, it's kind of like Potiphar. Yeah, I mean, I saw that connection as a wee lad.
Yeah.
So, but definitely,
wow, this blue background is really holding up our lighting.
It is kind of.
That's okay though.
Holding this up. So, all right. So, what were you saying about the prequel?
No, just saying that the. Go check out our study on Is Judas Saved?
Yes.
And you'll get some
from a while back. Yep. And so we definitely have a tie-in to the Prodigal Son and the older brother.
Yeah, defending the younger brother, right? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So we talked about the Prodigal Son and how we see the older brother goes out and he returns, and the younger brother is not so happy with the treatment.
Well, the younger brother went out and
that's right,
and it got his inheritance, while the older brother was the good boy and stayed.
Yeah,
and did what he was supposed to do. Was about his father's business, while the younger one went out and literally sowed his wild oats.
Right. So you see,
and squandered his inheritance.
You see Judah then sticking up for Benjamin.
Yeah, and so in the Prodigal Son story, you kind of see an older brother that's not happy about this, who doesn't get it. And Joseph it's kind of weird. The end was from the beginning, but Joseph reflects how it's going to be at the end. So, and, I don't know that when Yeshua tells that story that they necessarily understood everything what he was saying, or maybe they did. Maybe that's why they hated some of it, but definitely interesting that. And, this whole conversation stirs a great deal of emotion from Joseph. We talked about that last time. If you read this story, if you are uncaring and have a cold heart, I guess, you could look at this and be like, man, Joseph needs to pull up his pants and quit being a whiny baby.
Wear his pants down? I don't know how that happened. I missed I missed that part of it.
Yes, that's what they did back then in Egypt. They sagged their pants down real low.
Oh. So, and that stirred emotions.
Yes. No, not at all. But definitely you see this. And Joseph does cry a lot here, and but
Why
it is
looking down on him, Matt.
I'm not. I'm just saying I can see how there have been times in my life when I read that story and I'm like, "Why is he's crying again?" But that's not fair, and that's me being too harsh, and it's a very emotional moment. And if you put yourself in Joseph's shoes, yeah, I mean, you're torn up. I mean, this has been a deal his whole life. He's been estranged from his entire family, and he's longed for this reunion. You have to go, Joseph, kept his dream alive in this prison cell and even in the well, thinking about,
Yeah, and I don't even know if he's expecting them to show up.
Yeah, no, yeah, you have to go. Did he ever think he'd see him again? And especially his father.
Guys.
Yeah. So it is an amazing story, especially when you tie his dreams back to this moment, and these brothers are part of this drama, and at this point they don't even know.
Yeah,
they're just like, huh, this is weird, but I don't understand why. Why is he picking on us?
Right.
But anyway, it's a fascinating story. So, and then eventually Joseph does reveal himself to his brothers.
Right, and he says, Elohim went before me to preserve life.
Just like
guiding his path.
That's right. Just like Joseph went before his people to preserve life. And then 45:13, you see his glory revealed, which is symbolic of, future glory from the Father.
Right, and then he gets the royal escort, equivalent to the bulletproof SUVs and support aircraft of today.
Yes, so I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that Egypt is the superpower in the world at this point. I mean, they're bad mamma jammas. I mean, if you go up against the Egyptian army back in this day, things probably aren't so good for you. I mean, they've got the best, of everything, and so the Pharaoh says, "Go get your dad and take this escort of people and go get them." And so, yeah, it was like a whole workforce of people that came to pack up. It's like the move, it's better than the moving van, because not only is it a moving van, but you have, the royal escort, the limo with the flags waving, yeah. That's what he sends. So,
yeah, I kind of picture this as a, it's like, the angels that surround the prophet when he says, it's Elijah or Elisha?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you put them so close together and call them basically the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a trickster. Anyway, it's like the band of angels that are surrounding the enemy, and this is a protective band of angels, if you will.
Not like band of angels.
No.
Yes. But yeah, definitely. And it made me think of something else there. But it's like royalty going to get the commoners, because there's that part of this story too. Definitely there was a difference in the Egyptians and Joseph's family. They did kind of look down on them because of their occupation. They were like, "Ooh,
we don't deal with you kind of people.
Yeah, we can't even eat with you guys."
Yeah.
So that's a whole another side thing to study and look at. But so you see this father, son, children reunited. Everybody's happy. Yay! The end puts a nice bow on the story.
Feels so good to be reunited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. And so we talked about bridal language. And so we're going to discuss, who's the bride, who's the groom. And then, yeah.
Is this a groom going to get the bride situation? Like they go in with fanfare to pick up Joseph or Jacob and the rest of the family and parade them back to Egypt into Goshen, right? So it seems that Joseph is kind of representative of the groom in this case, and Jacob and the Israelites are the bride. Just like in the end times, the bride is, right, the city full of Israelites. It's this house of Israel returning to the groom situation.
Well, and we're going to talk a little bit more in the next few slides about that. you see that Joseph had a plan in 46:34. He already knew that shepherding was offensive to the Egyptians, and so he gets the land of Goshen, which it says it's the choicest land in Egypt for shepherding. I mean, it was the choicest thing. And then you've got bridal meal in 47:12.
Right, the meal.
And so
let's get together and have a meal.
And anytime you see people like that, that's usually a sign of a covenant coming together. So you kind of already started talking about who's the bride, who's the groom, and you say it again.
I'm saying that the groom is Joseph,
who is not the father.
Who is not the father, right? And I'm saying that the bride is actually his father and the rest of the family. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of got this flip-flop situation going on.
Yeah. Because when I first started looking at him, I was like, wait a minute, the father, is what is Jacob in Israel? But and when you look at his name, you just did it there. Jacob is Israel, so Israel is the bride.
Yeah, and we're looking at their status here. Joseph is above his father in status, according to the world, and according to the spiritual realm, because of the way that the way that the bridal language comes together here.
And this is such a deep, complicated story, because there's also this analogy between the northern and southern kingdom. So what do you think about the northern and southern? How does Joseph represent one of these kingdoms, and the rest of them are one of the kingdoms?
Well, it seems like Joseph went away. And then there's think
about it. He was carried off into the hands of Gentiles, unbelievers, and got assimilated into the world. And so that's one of the reasons why Joseph is not recognized, is because more than likely he had on makeup and a headdress, and he looked like an Egyptian pharaoh.
Yeah, we're not saying wear makeup.
That's right.
That's not what we're saying.
But we don't often talk about that part of the story, but they didn't question that he was not Egyptian. I mean, they didn't question that, and we forget that places like Egypt, they would be a melting pot like America is today. People from all around the world came into Egypt, and so it wasn't just one type of blood group of people. Although yes, there are people who are Egyptians,
right?
But this was a mixed multitude, if you will, coming into Egypt, because it was a trade center. Because we know from historical records, and the Nile was a point where they could go around the world, and we history believes that they did travel around the world in boats, and people came to see them, and they were part of worldwide trade. Yeah, which would have been putting them in contact with all kinds of people. So anyway, so the bride and the groom, you get the separation of the kingdoms. I do believe Ephraim and Manasseh coming out of Joseph represent the northern kingdom, where you've got Judah coming from his father's house, representing the southern kingdom. Mm-hmm. So it does seem like there's this symbolism of the reunification of the two houses.
Yeah, it's cool how both of those things go on at the same time.
Yeah.
That Israel's portrayed by Israel and the rest of the family, whereas Joseph is this other entity from that. And then you have Joseph also representing Israel.
Yes, it's complicated. So, and I challenge you, if you've never gone deep, I mean, this is a story you can really go deep in, and it's like the deeper you dive, the more you find out, and it just doesn't stop. So, Joseph's plan enslaved Egypt. So, how did his plan enslave Egypt?
Just like, and I see this kind of happening today, but we're not allowed to talk about that. No. So there's a famine, of course. Everyone wants food, and so the people come to Joseph and say, "Hey, here's my monies. Give me some foods." And then they're like, "I'm out of monies, but I still need the foods." And he goes, "Okay, just give me some land." And they go, "Okay, here's some land. Give me some foods." And then they're like, "I'm out of land. I'll just you can have me. That's all I got left." Right?
We'll take it.
Yeah.
And that's how you get enslaved.
Right.
So definitely parallels and relations to the world that we see today. And don't you think you can argue that there's a famine of the word in the land?
Absolutely.
So yeah, so
people
don't know.
In a time where it's most abundant.
Yeah, which is ironic.
If you go to the right place.
That's right.
The word is abundant.
It's at your fingertips. And, and then think about too, I'm sure if you Googled this, you could find a stat of how many Bibles does the average American have in their house? And it's probably a pretty big number. And so not only do we have a lot of Bibles here in the United States, but the internet is in most people's. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't have internet today? Even
it's a library.
Yeah. I would say even the poorest among us have access to the internet today for free if they want it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so you've got that. And then, so some interesting side notes here. Joseph is the only patriarch so far to have only one wife.
And you're talking Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then Joseph.
In that line.
Right.
And so Adam and Noah also, it's only spoken of one wife for them. And so what do you think I mean here? Get in my head for a minute.
Okay.
She is called out of Babylon to be his bride. She learns his ways and becomes like Joseph. What do you think? What am I saying?
What are you saying, Matt? It's crazy. So to me, what you're saying here is the family, Israel, is called out of Babylon, being Canaan, where the famine is hitting everybody, in to be the bride of Joseph, right? And then they go into Egypt and learn the ways of that Joseph is promoting.
No, I remember here. I just didn't remember. I was thinking something different.
You wanted me to.
And then I remember what this was.
Okay.
I'm talking about literally Joseph's bride. She was a priest. Her father was a priest in Egypt. That's what the text tells us. And she was in Babylon.
Yeah.
And she got called. So I mean, it's like layer upon layer upon layer. So here's another layer where just in the study of Joseph's wife, she is also a reflection of the bride being called out of Babylon, because she was a bride called out of Babylon.
Right. And
she had to drop her Egyptian ways and become like Joseph. And so, it doesn't tell you a whole lot about Joseph's wife, but you don't see things in there about her hiding idols and things like we saw in these other women in this story who did hide idols and sit on them and things like that. So,
right.
So you don't see any of that talk with
Quit sitting her on those idols.
Yes. Don't sit on your idol. Maybe that should be on the T-shirt.
Don't sit on your idol.
Don't sit idle. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so just interesting talk about, but I think it is both and exactly what you were saying is definitely true, but literally his wife was a reflection of this as well. So, and wow, that didn't take long.
And that's all that's in this section. I mean, that's the totality of that section of Scripture.
So we do want to keep these short and sweet. And so once again, this is week 11.
Vayigash.
And he came near, Genesis 44:18 through 47:27. And so if you're new to all this, these Torah portions are a way for you to read up the Torah in a timely fashion and study it and know what it says. And we feel like it's important that you know what. So what are some of your thoughts here, Jake, about why is it so important to study this Torah?
Why is it important to study the Torah? So you know what it's saying. It can't get more plain than that, I guess. It's so you know what it's saying.
That's
because it applies, because we're Israel.
Yeah, and I keep saying, I want to make us a little bigger here.
Good.
So no, we need that. The world needs that.
We need our comeuppance.
That's right. And so, but I think it's so important today to stress, because there's nothing but lies. It seems like in the world today, the media, they lie. And then, whatever political party you want to look at, guess
what?
I'm going to tell you, they're all lying. That's right. They're all spinning it some direction, and they're telling you some of the things, but they're not telling you the things that make them look bad. And in fact, the whole world and all of social media has become this thing where you only show the good side of yourself and the positive side. No one ever shows the terrible things that happen in your life.
Right. And, I've actually been thinking about that a lot lately is it's so funny how hard it is to find truth anymore.
Yeah.
And how really the word is the only thing that you can really stand on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think that's where we are today. We're in a famine. It's like
truth.
Joseph.
It's like a truth famine.
Exactly. And it's both. We need to be prepared.
Yeah.
But also we can go too far with what do they call it? The Bible, the bullets in the toilet paper? No,
bandages?
Bandages, yes.
Probably, yeah.
So, you can go too far and then you're just relying on your own strength.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look at these stories, Yahuwah provided.
Yeah.
When he let them out of Egypt, he gave them what they needed. And so it is really hard for us as humans not to try to take on more, we like to do
Control.
work, I guess. Yeah. And we like to, and sometimes we don't leave him much room to work. And that's the hard part of all this. And I think we should be way more worried about what the Torah portions are and what the Torah says than what the world is telling us to worry about.
Yeah, I agree.
And, so challenge you to look at the Torah portions, look at the book of Daniel. That's also a good thing to study in the times that we're in right now. But anyway, anything else?
Nope. I think we covered it. That's
right.
Everything you need to know.
And more.
Yes. So these are just high level, hitting the highlights in here and trying to give you something you maybe haven't heard yet or get you interested in reading deeper.
Yeah, we hope something clicks and, maybe you go investigate and, to discover something that you didn't know before. So, But as always, we ask you to share this, to like this, to let us know. We let us know what you think about it. Let us know if you have any questions. Please hit the thumbs up, the like buttons, the heart buttons.
All the buttons.
The emojis.
The ding button, the bell. Is it a bell?
It might be a bell. If there's a bell, ring it. Ring it. So, too far.
Too much.
Yes, too much.
We've overstepped.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for listening and tuning in to Sabbath Lounge.
All right. Check us out next week.
All right. And if I can figure out how to make this stop.
You can do it. You got to click here, man. There. Now we're gone.
Now, there it is.